Hello and welcome to this brief overview on the Dealership Analysis Program by Prosperity Plus. I'm Tim Fatapka, the VP and Director of Marketing here, and with me today is Jim Kahrs, who is the President and Founder of Prosperity Plus Management Consulting. Jim, what is the Dealership Analysis Program?
It's a program that we developed to help dealers take a look at the full length and breadth of their organization to find out what's working, what's not working. And a big part of the program is to help the dealer really look at, understand, and lay out their goals. So in a nutshell, we start with looking at what are the goals that you're looking to achieve for your business. And then from that, look at everything from administrative, organizational, sales, marketing, service. Look at your structure, your practices, your procedures and policies, and basically compare them to successful models that we've seen with some of the strongest dealerships in the country or in the world for that matter, and use that as a roadmap to help the dealer figure out what needs to be done differently in order to achieve those goals. So basically we'll go through from top to bottom with you, the entire dealership, and come up with a recommendation of what are the things that you really could and should do differently in order to achieve the goals that you have outlined for yourself.
Where did the idea for the program come from?
Early on in the tenure of Prosperity Plus, what we would do is approach a dealership, typically one that was struggling or having problems, and then just jump right into a consulting program. And what I found was there was two major issues with that. The first one is you don't necessarily know exactly what needs to be handled or corrected right out of the gate, so there's some investigation and analysis that has to happen first. And the other thing was that we found there were times where the programs and things that we do weren't necessarily always the best fit for what that dealership needed. So basically, in working with some of my colleagues and other consultants around the country, I kind of polled them to find out how do they start an initial program and pull together ideas from a few different ones that had this analysis as a first step. And it really is a great way to start the process, because what it is it's a low-cost, short-term way to get a good look at the business from top to bottom. It allows us to get an idea of what's going on within the business, what needs to be done, and what can we assist with. But it also gives the dealer owner the chance to better understand how we operate, what the tools are that we bring to the table, how they work, and what kind of result they think they'll be able to get from it. So it's really a great way to really almost kind of date before you get married, and it really make sure that fit is there, because I think more than anything, if you're going to have someone who's going to work as a consultant or a coach with you in your business, it's got to be the right fit, and I don't think that it's the right fit for every single individual. So we go through this analysis program. It was developed and designed specifically to be able to provide a real product to the dealership, and that you're going to get a full listing of what's going on in your business, the good, the bad, as well as a recommendation of what you need to do. And then if there's a good fit, then very often we take it from there and follow up with consulting.
What makes the Dealership Analysis Program different from any other introductory consulting program that's out there?
I think the thing that, a couple things that set us apart. First and foremost is that we work with a system called the Hubbard Management System. It is probably the largest body of documented management technology out there. And I find that a lot of dealerships have come into existence by either a service person or a salesperson going out and starting their own business. And because of that, very often they have little or no formal management training on how to run a company. They either know really well how to sell or they know really well how to service. And I find what other consulting companies have a tendency to do is that they'll go in and just kind of put in best practices, but not teach that dealer owner and the senior managers within that dealership how to be better managers, how to be better owners, how to manage the money, how to manage the marketing, you know, all those things that you didn't learn coming up the ranks in either the sales or the service side of the business. So I think that's the first point where we're different than other consulting companies and other programs that are out there, because we're bringing very specific tools to the table, teaching you how to use those tools and how to then train your staff and your managers to use those tools, all to the purpose of achieving the goals. As for, you know, how it differs as an introductory program, the thing that's different about this, again, is we don't dig into, you know, trying to have someone sign up for a 6-month or a 1-year program out of the gate. The whole purpose behind this introductory program, it's a 4-week program. There's 4 meetings, and the idea is that it doesn't cost a whole lot of money to do it, and you get a good idea of, is this a good fit, and do you feel as the business owner that we've got the type of tools that are going to help you solve the problems you have or help you achieve the goals that you're looking to achieve.
Now, if I'm a business owner, how do I make the time to work on analyzing my business when there are always fires to put out?
That's a great question, and probably, you know, the biggest question that we get asked. I think most business owners have a tendency, especially in smaller businesses, as you grow to a certain size, it becomes a little bit easier. But most businesses struggle with the fact of, how do I put in the time to work on my business instead of just in my business? Meaning, you know, I'm doing the day-to-day stuff, but how do I step out of it and plan and do the things I need to grow the business? So, you know, the question is, you know, how do you make the time to do that? It comes down to really the expectations that are put on everybody else in the organization. So as a first step, I'll tell you, when it comes to this program itself, it's not a significant time investment on your part as a business owner. They're probably, you know, we will do, as I said, 4 meetings. Each meeting lasts roughly an hour and a half. And I would say for the first 2 meetings, there's some prep work that needs to be done on the dealer's part. It'll probably take, for the first meeting, it's about an hour, and then for the second meeting, I would say it's an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And then for the third meeting, there's just some data to pull together, which typically takes less than 30 minutes. So if you look at the entire time investment for the program, you know, you're looking at somewhere between, you know, about 10 hours or so of total time being invested on the dealer's part. And then obviously on our side, there's more time than that, because we've got a lot of work we do with the data and analysis and everything behind the scenes so that we could be prepared and ready for the meetings. But it really comes down to making a decision that you know, you want to carve out some time to work on the business, and then the program itself will outline the strategies that you need to keep that going so that you really can achieve the goals that you have.
Jim, what usually comes out of the analysis that dealers don't already know?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because, you know, very often I'll have people say to me, you know, well, how are we going to do this, and, you know, how are you going to tell us something we don't already know? But there's really a basic premise that we work with, and that is, if you really knew exactly what was causing the problems within the business and had the wherewithal to handle it, they would have already been handled. So one thing that I will tell you that's very interesting is, it's not uncommon for us to go through this process and actually bring to light things that the dealer owner had never considered. You know, very often they'll come in and they'll say, oh, the problem is X. You know, I'll give you a live example. We had somebody we worked with years ago who was having tremendous cash flow problems. And going into the program, the dealer said to me, I know the problem. It's my gallon collections. She's not making the calls. She's not doing things she's supposed to do, and that's why we're short on cash. I said, okay, fine. Well, let's just do the analysis and go through the process. Well, lo and behold, it turned out to be absolutely the opposite, or completely not the answer he thought it was. Their collections numbers were actually fine. We looked at the dollars they had aged over 60 days and the percentage that was aged. It was fine. We looked at the process of how they went about collecting and, you know, putting people on hold when appropriate and all those things. And the collection process really wasn't bad. What we found was the cash problem was an inventory issue, and as we dug in a subsequent consulting program that came after this, because we identified the problem in the analysis, but then dug in to find and solve it in the consulting. And we found that there was a policy put in place years ago where the dealer had said to his parts manager, if a part fails, I want you to order one or two for the shelf and one for each tech. Now, they had 10 techs. So this parts manager, not being managed the way he should, not being tracked on the inventory and everything else, just kept ordering parts on top of parts on top of parts, and next thing you knew, this dealership had, in excess of $500,000 worth of parts on hand, $300,000 worth of which was obsolete. So, that's just one real-world example of something where the dealer went in with a preconceived idea of, here's what's wrong, and in that case, it was completely the wrong answer, and the reason why it was never getting solved. And there's countless ones. I mean, every business is completely different, so you can't say that each one is going to be exactly the same from one to the next. We've encountered situations like that, or similar to that, with compensation issues that they didn't realize they had, or other issues administratively, organizationally, marketing, or whatnot. Sales-wise, obviously, comes up quite a bit. But each one is completely independent and different from the next, which is why, again, we start with this analysis. We want to make sure that we take the time to really look at what's going on, get a proper diagnosis of the situation so that it can truly be handled.
Owning a small business is very competitive and certainly time-consuming. How can anyone afford to spend time organizing without feeling like that will cause sales to go down?
Yeah, it's a very common feeling that, if I put some time in organizing and getting the structure set and the procedures and the policies and all that sales are going to crash. And it is quite honestly a balancing act. One of the things that we work with through this management system that we use, there's a policy and a reference letter that talks about the difference between cope and organize. Cope means to just handle whatever needs to be handled day in and day out, and organize means to really put the structure there so that things run as smoothly as they can. And again, this management system really teaches that you need to have the proper balance between cope and organize. And if you've got too much cope, meaning you're just constantly running around, putting out fires, handling issues, doing daily transactions, and not continuing to also put some time and invest some time into organizing how you do things, then what happens is the demand for that cope or the number of fires just gets to be bigger and bigger and bigger. So, the question of, how can you do this? Yes, you certainly need to keep an eye on all parts of the business. And I'll tell you, when we embark on a consulting program, the first thing that we do is put in place a series of key executive statistics that we track, or key production indicators that we look at every single week to make sure that sales aren't dropping off or that other parts of the business aren't getting into trouble while we're putting some of this structure and organization in place. But yes, it is very competitive. It is time-consuming in running a business. But the only way to get better is to little by little get that proper balance of get it a little more organized, a little better structured, different best practices, different procedures put in place one by one, while still at the same time focusing on getting the production and the sales that you need.
All right. Once the analysis program is done and all the data has been laid out, what usually happens next?
When the program is done, the last of the 4 meetings is a summary and recommendation. So in that meeting, and again, I do this program personally because I think it's important to make sure that we've got somebody that has the full knowledge of everything that we do administering this. So at the end of the program, I lay out for you a recommendation based on the goals that you're looking to achieve. Here's the roadmap customized for you of what you need to look at and what you could and should be doing to achieve those goals. We'll also take all the information that we covered over the 4 meetings, put it together in a binder, and send it off to you so that you've got everything all in one place to go back and refer to whenever you want. And then from there, the next step is really the ball is in your court. And I tell people there's really 3 directions that it typically can go. One is that we go through this process. I lay out the recommendation for you. you look at that and you say, you know what, this is great. It's helped me get an idea of where I need to go. I'm confident that I can do that now. And then the dealer owner goes off on their own and says, okay, I'm going to now implement these different things and put the changes in place that we need. The second one that comes up very commonly is, a dealer owner will say, you know what, this is great. You've given me a lot of insight, but I don't feel that I can do this on my own. I need some help in implementing these programs and these plans so that they go in and they stay in and we get the results we want. At which point, we'll provide a proposal for a consulting program. We do custom tailor the consulting programs also to each individual dealership, but I will tell you a couple things. One, they're absolutely affordable. We start out with an on-site visit to really get to know the lay of the land and everybody there, but and then move most cases to more of a remote program. And the other thing that we do, which is unique from other consulting companies, is that we don't require anybody to sign a long-term consulting contract. My feeling is if we do our job, there's no need to have a long-term consulting contract in place. A dealer is going to work with us for as long as they feel that they're going to get benefit from it. And if they don't feel they're getting benefit, they shouldn't be required to stay on, and we don't want them to. So the consulting plan is the next step. And then the third one that I present kind of tongue-in-cheek is that, because it happens, I hope that it doesn't, but on occasion it does, we go through this whole process. We outline the goals. We outline the strategies that can be put in place to achieve those goals, put together everything in a binder, send it off to the dealer owner. They take the binder out of the envelope, they put it up on their shelf, and they just keep doing everything the way they used to do it, and nothing changes. I would hope that's not the case. It's happened on a few occasions, and I think it's just indicative of really is there a decision there on part of the dealer owner to do things differently and make a change to achieve their goals. That's really the three. I mean, it's either work on things on your own, look for some consulting help for which we can provide, or, like I said, hopefully not, but some just keep doing what they've been doing.
How does the cost of the program turn into tangible return on investment, or ROI?
The ROI on this program, again, it's a low-cost program. The cost of doing this program is $1,500. So when you talk about ROI, I mean, the ROI, it can be literally, if we could put one plan in place that helps you improve profitability in your service department or improve sales or capture. We've had a number of occasions where just by going through the AR, a dealer owner is looking at it and they hadn't looked at it in a while. They make a couple of phone calls and bring in enough money that would have been gone that they cover the ROI there. So there's so many ways that the ROI can and would be made back literally, typically within the first 30 days after doing the program. But the real return on investment is not so much against that $1,500 cost of the dealership analysis, but results-wise, it's very common for clients that we've worked with through this dealership analysis and then subsequent consulting to double their net income in less than a year, and then continue to see that process of increased revenues, increased net income, and that's achieved through gross profitability changes in all departments: sales, equipment sales, service, supplies, really all across the board. So the return, to me, the return financially is in what can you do to the net income. There's also an intangible return on investment, and that is in getting things better structured within the business. I can't tell you how many times we've had dealer owners come back and say, I finally feel like I could take a vacation without being worried sick the entire time. I could take a week off, 2 weeks off, and the business actually runs smoothly. It runs as well or better than when I'm there. And that's, to me, more of an intangible, but sometimes more important ROI. Can you get the business to a point where it can run without the need for you to be there handling every single situation that comes up? But again, financially, the tangible ROI, literally, you should see that within 30 days of doing the analysis, and then the consulting from there, it just kind of goes up from there.